North Korea's weapons of mass destruction program. Let's turn to Ryan Mauro. He's a national security analyst at the Clarion Project. And good to have you with us right now. You say that the Iranian and North Korean weapons of mass destruction programs should be seen as a single entity. Explain what you mean by that.
Sure. Well, just now, right after the test of the hydrogen bomb, you have Iranian officials visiting North Korea. And North Korea is not exactly where the new iPhone is being made. So what are they discussing? What does North Korea have to offer? Based off of history and just simple logic, we know they're talking about missile technology and nuclear weapons technology and other things, potentially conventional arms sales to Hamas and Hezbollah, which North Korea is believed to have done in the past. So we should view the Iranian and North Korean WMD programs as one. And frankly, any threat by North Korea should also be seen as a threat by Iran.
Now, Ryan, Iran having a nuclear weapon could be more problematic than North Korea having one. Keeping in mind in the Cold War, there was mutual assured destruction and mutual self-preservation, which kept a check on things. The Soviet Union knew that if it attacks the U.S. will attack back and obliterate it, and vice versa. So neither party wanted that. But with Iran, if it were to get a nuclear weapon, and you have the ideology of jihad, and that dying in the name of Allah is a positive outcome, how does this now make this a far more dangerous scenario?
Because they crave death. Death is no longer a deterrent, it becomes an incentive. So if you have religious fanatics in control of nuclear weapons and they believe that the conflict with those weapons is a positive thing, then you're dealing with a completely different scenario. And then you also have to consider the madmen in North Korea and their lack of logic and their own mental issues that we're dealing with. And you have a high chance of miscalculation. But I think the media missed a bigger story in covering the hydrogen bomb test by North Korea. The bigger story is that what accompanied that test was a statement by North Korea saying that the purpose of the test would be so that they had the capability to carry out a nuclear electromagnetic pulse strike on the United States, where you detonate a nuclear weapon at a particular altitude and you potentially fry all of the electronic components. You destroy the power grid over the continental United States. This is something Iran has talked about, Iran has simulated doing, and now North Korea is openly threatening to do. And Americans need to hear this unfortunate news, even though it's going to make them feel like what it's like to be an Israeli, to realize that your country could be destroyed.
Well, Ryan, expand more on the potential threat of an electric-magnetic pulse attack. When you say it could wipe out entire grids, what exactly does that mean, and what could be the consequences of that?
Sure. It sounds like science fiction, but adversaries of the United States have studied this method of attack, have concluded that it is possible to do. You could potentially even do it without the United States knowing who did it to the Americans. Basically, you can launch a nuclear missile either from your own territory using an ICBM, or you launch a missile off of a shipping vessel, and thousands arrive at our shores every single day, and it just goes into the sky. You don't have to worry about being accurate because you're not striking a target. You're detonating it in the sky, and then it sends out these electronic waves that fry the electronic components and collapse the power grid. And it sounds like science fiction, but the government put together the EMP Threat Commission around 2008 and concluded it's not science fiction. This is reality. Our enemies believe it's a viable way of attacking us, and they are preparing the means to do so. And according to that government study, the majority of Americans would die in that scenario over a period of a couple of years.
Now, Ryan, does the U.S. have any sort of defense measures in place to try and protect against something like that?
Based on what's known in public, not so much, unfortunately, because you're talking about the collapse of the civilian infrastructure. So there may be military systems, governmental systems that are protected against this, but you're talking about the collapse of everything that relies upon electricity for the United States. So if you find yourself in the conflict with the U.S. and you want to take on your neighbors and destroy American allies, such as Israel or Japan and South Korea, and you carry out an attack like this on the United States, we're going to be too busy trying to hold our country together to intervene and stop you from pursuing your agenda. And so if you're a mad dictator that wants to have his place in history, or you're a jihadi who believes that Allah commands you to make this type of thing happen, suddenly you have an option, and it's very frightening to think about.
It's very frightening, Ryan. So very quickly, what happens next? What should the U.S. be doing here?
We need to make a mad dash to protecting ourselves from an EMP strike. This is what North Korea is threatening us with. Obviously, we should respond. But more broadly, we have to have a strategy to combat the ideology of radical Islam, as well as support those that want to change the regimes in Iran and North Korea. And no, that doesn't require an Iraq-style invasion. It is the most anti-war, the most viable anti-war position that we can take would be to support the people that are oppressed in both of those countries.
All right. Appreciate your analysis. Ryan Mauro, a national security analyst at the Clarion Project. Thank you.
Thank you.
A Palestinian reporter detained after criticizing